my entire life was healed in 45 minutes. I'm not kidding. That's how I knew it's like, this is really profound.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Glam Reaper podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Muldowney, aka the Glam Reaper. And today's episode, we are diving into the afterlife. I'm actually very excited about this episode. Please welcome Irene, author of an incredible new book. Irene, welcome to the Glam Reaper podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm happy to be
Good.
here.
Yeah, tell us. Okay, so let's start at the start. Tell us a little bit about you. We've got our audience is funeral professionals and then lay people or Joe Public, as I call them. So yeah, give us a little bit of a synopsis as to who Irene is.
Okay, I earned my PhD in transpersonal psychology, and instead of going the clinical route, I am more interested in research. So I'm an independent researcher. While I was earning my PhD, while I was at the institute, I was part of a research unit that we were studying the psychomanteum. It's a sensory deprivation type of chamber that was developed by Dr. Raymond Moody Jr., psychiatrist, and he's got a PhD in philosophy too. And it's based on Greek, like the Oracle of the Dead. And so he developed it for common use and called it the psychomanteum. And what we did is we were studying it. We were taking people through a process we created to have them be prepared to go into the psychomantium, be in there to contact their deceased loved one, because our people were people who were grieving. And we wanted to see if their time in there and their experiences in the psychomantium would reduce their grief symptoms. And so after they would come out, we would debrief them about what their experience was. We recorded it. Plus, they also did filled in assessments saying the level of their grief before we started the research, after they came out of the psychomantium and finished the debrief, and then 2 months later. And out of the 100 participants that we pulled from our pool, we had 92% that had their symptoms reduced, if not eliminated, and the reduction lasted over time. So I wrote a book about our research and about the psychomantium, and it's called Gazing into the Afterlife.
Wow. Okay. Oh my gosh. I mean, okay. So can you talk me through, I guess give our listeners a little synopsis as to what people might experience going through this?
Well,
Yeah.
there's a variety of experiences. I share some of them in the book because it's just so interesting. Um,
Yeah.
some people would have an experience of just a felt sense of presence, and nothing else. But when they measured their grief, when they came out, they had a sense of peace. So even if they had no real experience, they still reduced their grief symptoms. How that happened, we don't know, but it worked. And so, and we showed that with our research, both using, statistical analyses and also doing it from a qualitative perspective, looking at their lived experience going through it. And there are people, it's rare that it happens, but two people did see an apparition, um, one of the person that they were trying to contact, and the other was a family member, not particularly the one they wanted to contact, but a family member did come through and they did see an apparition. Those are kind of the two extremes. Typically, people, when they're in there, they'll see like lightning bolts, color like purple and green, and sometimes kind of a fluorescent pink that they'll see coming out of the mirror, and others will actually see images coming out of the mirror. There's a mirror in the psychomantium. The way it's set up, on one end, there's a chair. On the other, there's a mirror, and it's on an easel, and it's bent in such a way at an angle that the person sitting in the chair cannot see their own reflection, but they can see into the mirror. And to me, the mirror is the portal to the other side. And so I always tell them at the very least they can communicate. So that's like that mirror is that's the communication way into the other side. And so it's through the mirror that they're seeing these images, whether it be colors or lightning bolt things or dots or images like one person saw a wolf come through. One was a I think it was a buffalo or something that came through. And so we have them after they're done in the psychomanteum to I actually have them go step by step and talk about what their experience was from the time they sat down. The chamber is like sensory deprivation. So there's no sound, there's no light, there's just a dim light, and there's a dimmer so they can make it a little bit brighter if they want. Some actually have turned it off, so it's pitch black in there. But we have there's yeah, so no sound, no scent. They can't see anything in there except for barely the mirror. So that's how they are able to usually go into a light altered state of consciousness, just simply because they're in this sensory deprived environment. And that actually lends to their experience. Yeah,
Right.
so it can be pretty profound.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of there was a time where I went into a floating I don't know what it was called. I wouldn't call it a device, but it was a room, a floating room. So like that, you were sensory deprived. There was only a dim light and you were floating on water. And it was all about sort of meditative and coming back to yourself and stuff like that. And I think you only did it for like a couple of minutes. Like I don't feel like it was a long period of time that you were in this room. So how long is this experience?
Well, the when we were in doing our research, we had to be uniform throughout. So everyone had 1 hour of, getting ready. They bring mementos and pictures and stuff for the person they want to contact. So we spent an hour having them focus just on that person. Then they go into the psychomantium and they're in there for anywhere from 45 to 55, 60 minutes.
Okay.
If they wanna come out sooner, they just have to let us know. They would have to, like, raise their voice so we could hear them
Right.
and, let us know, but typically, it was between 45 and 55 minutes.
Okay, so this is very specifically focused on contacting the dead. So
Yes,
it gets
yes.
their memorabilia, their photos, maybe, some tactile things that belong to the deceased outside of the room. They don't come into the room. So they focus on that for a time and then go into this room.
Right, and I'm just thinking when you were saying tactile things, um, also, I take away their watches. I don't want them looking at their watch going, "Uh-oh, I've only got 15 more minutes, let's focus," you know?
People sneak their phones in.
Yeah, well, that's like, okay, all this stays
Yeah,
in the, counseling room that we have, and then the psychomantium's in another area was in another area. When
right.
I was doing it, I had a room, and I did the pre and post in the room just outside the psychomantium, but I left the room while they're in the psychomantium, unless they asked me to stay, but that never happened. They usually wanna be in
And
there by
you've experienced
themselves.
this yourself as well as helping
I
allow them?
have, yes.
Do you see anyone or what was your experience?
I know I actually, I had gone through, I think 2 or 3 times. We
Okay.
had to go through, when we were being trained as facilitators. This is when I first started, then I eventually became a facilitator trainer. I trained everybody. But, I went through and wanted to contact my father,
Mm.
and I just wanted him to be proud of me. My whole life, my father was I was never good enough. And so I spent my whole life just trying to be good enough. In fact, I made straight A's and I got an A minus. And he goes, "What's this A minus?" And so I was never good enough. And so here I am, I'm in a PhD program, I'm going through it really fast, and I'm just doing really well, and I'm sitting on the edge of the seat, and I'm like, "Come on, dad," Seriously, I'm not kidding. I was just like, "Come on, dad, I want you to be proud of me." And all of a sudden, it felt like these 2 hands were on my shoulders and pushed me back into the chair. And in my head or outside, I really don't know, but I distinctly heard a voice, and it wasn't my father's, but it was a voice that said, "Be proud of yourself." And all of a sudden, it felt like my chest had opened up. There was no pain, and it was just in my mind's eye, but it was like my chest just cracked open, and this pink light was just flowing out of me and filling the whole psychomanteum with this pink light. And all I could feel was, there's no other words to describe it, but kind of unconditional love. Like I just, nothing mattered anymore.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal, and it truly was ineffable. When, my facilitator came to get me out, I couldn't talk, and so we sat there, and he was asking me questions, I could kinda nod, and it took me about 15 minutes to, get normal again, and I was completely transformed, and I am still to this day. It was kind of like every desire I had for my father to be proud of me, to get acknowledgement from my father was absolutely gone. And it
Wow.
still is. It's like it doesn't even exist.
It's
It
like
was,
healed
oh, completely,
trauma.
absolutely 100% healed. Yeah, it was. And that was in a 45-minute time in the psychomantium. My entire life was healed in 45 minutes. I'm
God.
not kidding. That's how I knew it's like, this is really profound
Yeah.
what this can do. And there was one other participant who went in for the same reason. Only I didn't take him through. He was someone else facilitated him. And I just read because we were doing research, I was reading the data, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, this guy went in for the same reason." So I'm reading through to see, and he didn't have the exact same thing, but he came out like, "It doesn't matter. I really get it. I forgive my father." And he was healed. I mean, healed from that. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And oh my, I mean, that's I mean, you're bringing a tear to my eye, which is
Oh,
easily done, live, never mind this podcast, but just when you're talking about stuff like that, because as children, we do have just this innate want to please our parents, no matter how abusive.
right.
Not that I have had a very good childhood, very happy and everything like that, but whether they've been abusive in, physical or mental terms or whatever, um, there is just always that child want to please. And yet, exactly as whatever experience you had, and I talked about this in another episode, there's no white knight on a white horse coming to rescue you. You have to rescue yourself. You have to be proud of yourself. It doesn't matter how wonderful a spouse you find, a partner, your children, your parents, there's only you who ultimately the book stops and starts with you, right? And
Right.
that's hard, I think, for us to sometimes grasp. And you obviously had this awakening. So, I mean, and listen, I have hundreds of clients who, well, I don't want to say hundreds that have experienced traumatic grief, but I've definitely had experiences with, people who, and even like when I think of back when I began and what kind of brought me into this business, is people who would absolutely love to connect with the afterlife and have talked to me,
Right.
have done all of that. Do you ever get those people who are manically, they're traumatized and so they're manically wanting this, and what does that look like in this realm?
Simply because of the type of environment that we're, sensory deprived. And I mean, you're looking at the mirror as a portal just from the thoughts of that. So there are people who do not qualify to
Right.
go through. And that would be, we I have assessment. We had an assessment. I use the same thing that we use to find out if the person had a diagnosis of a psychotic disorder of any kind, or even a psychotic episode, or if they were on antipsychotic medication. We were also, depression, although that can be one of the symptoms of grief as well. So that one, we had to interview the person to make sure that they were a right fit for this.
Yeah.
But we did get, I took two people through that were diagnosed with complicated grief or prolonged grief disorder, and one was sent by her therapist, and so that was, you know, I was fortunate to take her through because she had a complete transformation after, like, months and months of over a year of just severe, severe grief, ruining her life and her business and everything else, and she was completely transformed in our 3-hour session, but just, like, less than an hour in the psychomanteum.
My God.
And the other person had, a reduction of grief symptoms as well. But that's something that we don't wanna do is our whole goal was to do this research, but at the same time, do no harm.
Mm.
So, that was, safety first. And so there are some people that, I mean, if they need a psychotherapist, then that's what they need.
Yes.
And but the psychomantium, I mean, like, pretty much anybody that would go to a medium, would be a fit probably
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah.
Um, that and just as an example, I had I took a person through that she had anger issues with her father. I think it was her father. It's hard for me to remember because I during the research, I took over 40 people through, and it's just hard to remember all of them because some of them are really profound and you don't forget, it's just like
Yeah.
affected me. But she had anger was her main grief. And when she went in, she just let him have it. And so she just wanted to communicate. I said, you can communicate all you want. This is directly to the other side. Go for it. And she went in and she just spoke her piece. And when she came out, she was just like, "Yes." And she was one happy camper
Mm.
because she was able to get that off her chest. And I think in a lot of ways, this is better than in psychotherapy, they have it's kind of a gestalt therapy where it's empty chair. So you're sitting in a chair and there's an empty chair, but your therapist is there. And, so this, I think, is no holds barred.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching you,
Inhibitions.
there's no holding back,
Yeah.
so they can be unattended.
Did she see her father, or no, she was just yelling at this mirror?
Is she into the mirror? Yeah. She was, to my knowledge, she was just talking about how um she didn't even say what she said. She was just like, "This felt so good. I feel so much better." It was that kind of talking. It wasn't like, "I saw my dad," or, "I saw something come out of the mirror," because
Yeah.
all she wanted to do was just unload.
Yeah.
And I just thought, "Wow, this is actually a really good thing that, we could use the psychomantium when the grief is that you weren't able to say what you wanted to say." Usually it's like, if I only had 5 more minutes to say goodbye or to say what I want to say. There are those that what they want to say is not, yeah, not happy stuff. But yeah, so that was pretty impactful as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of akin to, that recommendation of, go to an empty forest and scream, or scream
Oh,
into a
right.
pillow and stuff, you know what I mean? And just sort of get the anger out in whatever way works for you, I guess. So it sounds like the psychomantium, this room, it almost it plays into a few different elements. So it's not necessarily like the key to the afterlife as such. It's what shows up for you. It's like when you go to a medium, you're not guaranteed who's going to show up, or it's not.
Right. Right. The only difference is that the person becomes their own medium. So instead of
Yeah, not
trusting a
person.
medium that they're having their own experience. And I love mediums. My mother was like so hooked on mediums. So I have nothing against mediums at all. In fact, I think they do a really important service. They
Yeah,
provide an important service. This is just for the person who wants to make the contact themselves.
yeah.
And the psychomantium, ours was a tent-like structure. So we used black PVC pipe. Mine had black PVC pipe, black covering so that it won't reflect light. And so it would just stay really dark. And in that tent-like structure, there was a chair and the mirror just a little table, tissues, because people need tissues, and a dimmer switch for the light, which was a really little light. And so we would have that set up specifically for the purpose. The mirror is the portal. And that's how I put it across to the people, that it's important that they understand that in this environment, I would stay in there with them if they were scared. I'd sit outside, right outside the flap of the tent-like structure if they wanted, and typically, if they said that was what they wanted when they first came, I never sat. In fact, they're like, "Out of the room, please," you know? They wanted to be in there by themselves, so you prep them enough that they feel comfortable enough to be in there and actually desire to be. So it's definitely set up so specifically for them to contact the other side.
Okay. And so, I mean, this just sounds so fascinating. Is this the book? It's showing the research and everything that you've experienced. Is this an active business right now, as in people can contact you and do this, or is this just a research project you did and believe in and all that sort of stuff?
Actually, I am gonna have to hire somebody to build a psychomanteum for me. I had one and I had it as a business, but, I was in a fire and my well, actually, everything I owned got burned up, but, and so that I have to have replaced. But the thing is, there's only one of me, and I refer now to one person who was trained by Dr. Raymond Moody, and she's in Oklahoma. And there might be one other person in the United States that does it, and she was one of the research teammates of mine. And then Dr. Raymond Moody, but I don't know if he still does it or not. But, I will do it.
Yeah.
Definitely, but what I wanna do and what I've created is a certification program, so I can get some usually it's women, not always, but women who wanna do this kinda work, so that I wanna certify them and train them in a way that they would be the best facilitators they could possibly be, and not only that, to be successful, to make this a lucrative business so that they can use this to make a living, and do something so incredibly interesting and also just it's really, God, you feel honored to do it, to be honest with you. It's
Sure.
really an incredible way to work,
Yeah.
I must say, but we do need more, and that's why I wanna certify facilitators and have them here, at least here in the United States.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, listen, we'll leave the links to contact you below. If people are out there and they're interested in this, they can contact Dr. Irene and see if there's some potential there, or go and try it out. Honestly, after reading the book, I'm going to be wanting to try it out and see how we go. So you can keep us updated on the rebuild. So, brilliant! Thank you so much for being on the podcast. This was really, really interesting. Thank you for joining us.
oh, thank you. I'm so glad you found it interesting because I certainly do. I love this work, and I love the research we did. So
Yeah,
thank you.
love it, and we'll be watch this space, as they say.